Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. We are talking about real estate. We're talking about what it takes today to sell a home and some of the most important things that you may want to consider. Let me share my screen with you. And as always, this workshop is being recorded and the workbook is going to be provided to you as long as we have your contact information. There we go. You should be able to see my screen now. And let's get started. So how do we plan our perfect and stress-free move? And of course, we're going to do it step by step. My name is Olga St Pierre, and I have been a real estate agent with a practice in New Jersey and Pennsylvania for the last 16 years. And truly, with these workshops, my mission, my hope is to help you make sense on the current real estate market. If you have a dream of going from one place to the other, what would that look like? And also, it's important to take the national news and what we see on internet and on social media and make it easy to understand and relevant to where you are in our community. We do offer a complete move solution from start to finish because, as you can imagine, making a move is very stressful. And part of that is also our concierge services once you are there, or maybe you don't have any plans to make a move right now. That's perfectly okay. Think of us as your virtual yellow pages from start to finish. Whatever that you are thinking about, maybe doing to your home, maybe doing some improvements, or you're looking for some other professionals, please reach out to us. We'll probably have a good recommendations for you. And if not, we will definitely be able to point you in the right direction. So let's get started first with some market update. Even if you are saying, well, Olga, I have no plans in moving anytime in the near future, I encourage you to stay up to date on what is going on in your neighborhood, as well as your town and our local community. For the reason being is that overall, the housing market plays a major part in the economy. The consumer price index, which tracks a lot of different things, is comprised of over 50% of components that pertain to the housing market, which means that the inflation and some other key indicators that are being tracked in the economy are going to be also tied into the housing market. So if what we're seeing today is something that we can look at for the rest of the year, let's do that. Another thing that I want you to keep in mind is this is, of course, the year when the new administration was sworn in for the next 4 years. And typically in the springtime, what we are seeing is the first 90 days of when the administration took reins, and they are just starting to get settled in and start implementing some of the things that they were talking about last year during the election run. And what I always tell clients is just give it some time for the dust, so to speak, to settle, to things to kind of get organized and people to get back to work, which means also looking at the rates and looking at what everything is going to look like probably towards the end of summer, early fall is when we're going to see the effects of the new administration and some of the new plans that they're going to put in place. So where are we right now? Supply of homes is growing in many states. I actually did a YouTube live with another agent yesterday, and we were talking about different areas such as Austin, Texas, as an example, some parts of Florida where the inventory is growing. It is taking longer to sell homes because the market is changing for one reason or another to another. So overall, the housing inventory registered at the end of February was just over 1.25 million units, which is actually up 5% from January and 17% more from 1 year ago. So you can see it rising. And as you can see on the graph, which I really love to see the bird's eye view, because it does give you a good perspective of how our housing market is kind of like a slow moving elephant. It is definitely not like the stock market that jumps up and down every day. But as you can see, we have our data through 2024 at this point. You can see where the inventory was and how we peaked at a low in 2021, and it's slowly rising little by little. So what does that mean? Of course, less buyers on the market potentially. It could be better chance of finding a home. However, more buyers are entering the market as warm months approach, because that's where we're talking about that cyclical change where you have less buyers shopping potentially in the wintertime, and as we enter into the warmer months, which is our spring and summer times, is where a lot of people are shopping because they want to get the move done in the summertime before the kids go back to school. Of course, we are seeing home prices are appreciating. We're seeing a 3% gain in home prices this year and a 4% hike in 2026 that is predicted, because we are still seeing housing shortages. That is something that, we can talk about a little bit more, but what we're seeing is the baby boomer generation, which is the holder of the most generational wealth, is holding on to those homes because it is something that just makes sense to them. Maybe they don't have mortgages anymore. Perhaps those mortgages only have small balances. They don't want to move from something that's familiar to them, and they're holding on. I do think that this is going to change in the next 5 years, because all of the baby boomers by the year 2030 are going to turn 65. A lot of them are going to retire or head in that direction, and that may prompt them to make some changes in their housing situation. At the same time, if you're a homeowner, one of the best ways to grow your wealth, to grow your legacy, and plan for retirement is to have your real estate, whether it's your primary residence or maybe you are thinking about doing some investments. Your equity is growing by record amounts. Typically, what we see, the historical average is about 4%. Yet, since 2021, we have seen home equity actually soar because housing prices were consistently reaching new heights because of limited inventory, multiple offers, and buyers are really intent on getting that new home. The median existing home price hit in February of almost $400,000, which is a record for the month of February. And as you can see, when we have been tracking a little bit of a home equity from 2000, it has been an interesting jump since 2020. So it definitely have been an interesting 5 years for sure. So if the mortgage rates are holding you back from making a move, I just want to remind you that we are in between 6 and 7%. And if you were to talk to baby boomers to going back to 1980s, they would actually swat their hands at you and say, oh, that is nothing. If you look at some of the rates in the chart that I have at the bottom of this slide, you can see that back in the 80s, back in 82, the interest peaked at 16%. Absolutely. So to baby boomers, having a rate of 6.5% or 7% is really not a big deal. And if you look at the historical average, where we are in 25 so far, about 6.5% roughly where we sit, it is still around the average if you were to take overall historical rates since they have been tracked. So overall, some kind of food for thought is that the longer you wait, the more buyers and the competition they're going to be. There's still lack of inventory, and also the longer you wait, the higher the prices are going to be as well. So just keep that in mind, because of the shortage of inventory, there's still multiple offers that are happening, especially here in the Northeast. And another important thing to understand is that you are looking for that home that is amazing to you, whether it's forever or it could be it's a transient part, maybe for 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. However, you are not going to have your rate forever. You can refinance it at any time. So just keep that in mind, which also means that you could potentially explore some other options that are available with the mortgages. Maybe it's not a fixed rate, could be an adjustable rate, depending on your situation, what you're trying to accomplish, and where you want to be in the next 3 to 5 or 7 years. Here's some other thing that I want to just ask you to keep in mind. How many of you are also carrying credit card debt? If you haven't seen this graph, I encourage you to, when you get the recording, to pause it and really look at it, because this figure really does scare me, because as you can see that the consumer credit card debt is at all-time high. We're looking at trillions and trillions of dollars. And if you haven't looked at your credit card bill lately, just to see what the actual percentages that you're paying on your debt, you may want to do that, because you are in for a rude awakening. It's kind of like a bucket of iced water, because the credit card debt is roughly between 22 and 26%. So depending on what your balance is, and I understand that you're looking at maybe something that's 30,000 or 50 or 100 versus a mortgage, which is a higher number. However, how different your life would be in terms of being easier on your monthly obligations if you could potentially take the equity from your home, make the move, but then be able to pay off some of this debt, if not all of it, and help yourself have a little bit of a breathing room. So that is something that I have an ongoing conversations with a lot of my clients, just asking them to look at this a little bit differently, to say, you know what, this could make like so much easier of a life for my family if we were to restructure that. And that's something that we can definitely speak with you as well if you are interested. So now let's talk about making that move. It is time to do so, and what is next? So here are some things that I encourage you to think about. A lot of you know that I'm a big proponent of using a notebook. It could be notebook, it could be notepad, whatever makes sense to you. Yet I encourage you to have something to write with, a piece of paper, and these are some of the questions that I'm going to ask you to think about. What does that look like for you? Because for each and every one of you, making a move is going to be different. It's going to be different journey where you are in your life cycle. If you're going to be going to something bigger, or maybe you're going to be downsizing, it's going to look different. So take the time, review these questions, and then let's talk in more detail. So what does it take to have a successful home sale? What I encourage you to realize and think about is the fact that even though there is a lack of inventory and there are multiple offers, it still takes time for you to get your home for sale. If you were to look at a simple catalog in the days when it was still being printed and offered, and even today, if you look at some of the home stores, you will see that they still take the time to sell as simple items as sheets and bedding. They still set up the room, they still do staging, they still have beautiful photography, because that first impression, that visual appeal is super important. So they do it for $100 sale of bed in the bag. We should definitely consider this and be even more intentional about how we do this with a home that costs hundreds and thousands of dollars. I also think that it's never too early to meet with a good real estate agent to help you put strategy together, to brainstorm, because maybe there's repairs that need to be done that would include an influx of investment on your end. What does that look like monetary wise? And it takes time to get contractors lined up, get those estimates, and actually get the work done. So my suggestion to you is schedule that appointment sooner than later. Then we put in a top action plan and timeframes talking about, discuss what that setting yourself apart from a competition preparation may look like, doing paperwork, and then talk about stage 2, which is, okay, we got our home ready. Now we're on the market. What happens next? So when we're talking about creating a plan and doing timeframes and doing the market analysis, there are a few things that I'm going to ask you to think about. Where are you thinking about moving? Is this going to be downsizing, going to a bigger home? Are you thinking maybe going into a 55 plus or another senior community? What are some other financial considerations that we need to be making? For example, you would have to sell before you actually be able to buy, because that is a different plan than if for someone who maybe is able to purchase something with cash, make a move, and then be able to sell. And then who's on your team? These are the people that can help you maybe with contracting, doing some staging, taking photos. Those are all the people that are part of my team that I want you to realize that are also part of your team. What are your expectations? Some of the things that maybe are important to you. Perhaps you want to be in your new place by a certain time, maybe by holidays or by the time the school starts. Are there any important time frames that we need to know and remember? And yes, we're going to take a look at the market analysis for the last 12 months so that way you can see how the neighborhood is doing, what is happening in your community, seasonal fluctuations, what you can expect, and what that strategic selling price range could be, so that way you can have kind of like a penciled in plan in mind. As you can see, as we're going through this presentation, I'm a big believer in planning and being proactive, because that is where you are able to maximize the sale and take as much as possible out of your home for your next plan. So step 2 is when we actually figure out that good action plan and we put our time frames in mind. So we kind of reverse engineer the plan based on if you have a target date. Let's say, Olga, I would like to be in my new home by the end of summer because of school considerations. That means we now have to figure out what we need to accomplish between today and let's say the end of August. What does that look like? Do we have 2 different homes potentially, one to sell, one to buy? What kind of marketing are we looking at? How is the neighborhood doing? Like, this is a lot of moving pieces where we actually have a big puzzle that we're putting together. So we reverse engineer, we backtrack. Do we need to do some repairs? Do we need to allow time to maybe do some decluttering and putting things away? Important timeframes to remember. And yes, we're going to look at that market analysis. So I actually have a sample market analysis here for you, just so you have an idea on what that looks like. I love the bird's eye view for the last 12 months because it tells us quite a few things. Number one, how does the market fluctuate depending on the seasons? And of course, that's what we talk about, is the fact that there's going to be more homes on the market and busier activities in the spring and summer seasons. And as you can see, we are starting to head into the spring season, where we had 22 homes that went on the market in February of this year. If you wanted to see kind of what things were happening last year, so in this particular township, I just took one as an example. The busiest time was when we had 33 homes that were listed, and that was in the month of May. And what that means to you is that if you wanted to have less competition because you wanted to set yourself apart, either maybe you are in a cookie cutter home or maybe you have something unique, then perhaps you would consider listing your home in March or April, because there were twice less homes that went on the market last year compared to the months of May, June, and July. The other thing that we look at is the number of homes that actually were under contract, which is the column right here in the middle that says pended, right? So it's right in the middle that you will be able to see. What that tells me is how many people were actually shopping during that month and seriously looking at a home, and they were ready to make an offer right then and there. And as you can see, if we were to look at all of these numbers, the busiest month was actually March, and then followed by the month of February. So that could also give you an idea that in that particular township, this is roughly historically based, is when a lot of the buyers were out and about. And then, of course, the column that says units sold were the people that actually bought their homes, settled, and the sellers moved out and the buyers moved in during that month. And what that also tells me is it's going to be the month of October that was the busiest, which means that last year more people were shopping in August and September to be able to close in the month of October. And then the other column that I pay close attention to is cumulative days on the market, which is all the way to your right. You will see the days on the market. And what that data tells us is this is how long the homes were on the market for in that township in that month, from the start when they were actually marketed and the clients were looking at it until the day when a good contract was presented, offer was negotiated, and it was accepted by both parties. So that is what we look at. And of course, as you can imagine, I do tailor this in terms of the price range that makes sense for you, your home, and your neighborhood. Of course, we looked at here at this township, and it is a really broad price range between 200 and 900,000. I will definitely narrow it down so that way you have a more accurate information for your neighborhood. So, talking about the market value of your home, even though we are in the market where sellers control the price and the terms because of low inventory, pricing your home is still very, very critical. I have seen homes in this market sit on the market because sellers were just unrealistic and unreasonable. So, the goal is to try and to take the emotion out as much as possible when you are setting a price of your home. And this is what we look at. We look at the local market specifically with someone who knows everything there is to know about your school, your township, your current neighborhood. It is not a good idea to use Zestimate because a lot of the times it's very much off, and Zillow is not very familiar with our neighborhood because they're headquartered in Washington State. It is not based on what you want to get. It has nothing to do with the tax assessments that you have. And unfortunately, as much as of emotional attachment that you have to your home because of the memories and treasures, and it is not based on the prices of the homes where you're moving to. The most important thing about pricing, number one rule is going to be location. Number two is going to be the condition. And this is why we work so hard on making sure that your home is 100% prepared when you are ready to put it on the market. Step 3, setting yourself apart from the competition preparation. I strongly believe that as much work to be done, even though we might be in the competition or in the time frame in the market where the homes are selling really quickly because there's not a lot of them. The goal is to create a desirable, wonderful looking photos. The goal is to have necessary repairs because a lot of the times when I walk through the home, I can see some of the basic small things that can be done very easily to prevent you having the frustrations down the road. We absolutely get professional photographer quality photos of your home. We do virtual tours. We do drone photos if it's allowed and it makes sense for your community to give an idea on where the home is located in the neighborhood, where are some of the other important points in the town, for example, maybe grocery or a commuting point or shopping. And we create a marketing materials portfolio that includes social media, marketing, your disclosure, floor plans, maybe a 3D tour, utilities checklist, updates and upgrades, your story about the home, your favorite places. If we have people maybe that are coming down from the north and they're not familiar with the area, what your average utilities are, and some other important information to really have a complete and comprehensive package of information to help buyers make the best decision. So here are some photos. I just want to show you what that before and after preparation would look like in terms of taking the time to set set your home, to have professional photos, to have very good lighting. We also have options where we can do some curated staging. We can do some work on the photos if your home is vacant. We try very, very hard to make this look like just a work of art because it's that important. Someone who is going to come in is going to invest their life savings as well as make a biggest investment of their lives most of the time. So how to prepare your home for the sale today, this is what we're looking at with this year in mind, is making sure that we're pricing our home right. If you price it too high, there may be discouraging the buyers from making an offer. At the same time, if you're going to price it too low, the buyers may worry that there's some kind of underlying issues. And of course, as you know, selling your home is not going to be convenient because people are going to want to see your home. They're going to look in your closet. So we are going to work hard with a checklist that I will provide you to help you do some of these little small things so that way you are going to upkeep your home as we are continuing to show it until your home is under contract. Step 4 is where we are ready to go, and we have just a few weeks before you are telling me, Olga, we are ready to put the home on the market. That also includes getting our paperwork in order, making preparations, talking about timeframes, scheduling the photo session, and everything else on our digital marketing checklist, and putting that pre-listing marketing plan in place as well. And as you know, communication is very important to me. This is where we are continuously talking on a regular basis, giving you updates on where we are in our planning process, and then going forward with our listing live date, and of course, making plans on what happens next. Because first we had kind of like our stage 1, where we're in the preparation mode, and then stage 2 is going to be go time when the home is on the market. And then after that is going to be stage 3, or what happens once your home is under contract, what we need to accomplish there. A lot of times I tell my clients, I said, I don't want you to go down the rabbit hole of thinking, well, what happens when we need to, when do we get movers? When do we do that? Because it's just so much. We take it one puzzle at a time, one stage at a time, and we work 1 week at a time. That is how we do it, small bite-sized pieces. Once your home on the market is where we enter our stage 2. And what we're going to do is keep an eye out and do a careful study of the market and how the market is responding to your home. We are checking online on some of the major websites that you know, how many people are viewing the home and saving it versus how many scheduled appointments we have. And of course, how many offers do we get over a certain period of time? And that is going to differ for each and every one of you, depending on where you're located. Do we need to take a look at potentially pricing if it matters? If your home is not sold in the few weeks or whatever the time frame that is relevant for your neighborhood, do we need to make some adjustments in response to the traffic of your home? So could it be that we're going to review, adjust, and review again? Absolutely, because we want to make sure that we're being proactive. Once we get offers, we're going to negotiate to make sure that you understand and you have the best terms that make sense to you. And then we're going on the contract. And that is where we're going to go into stage 3 that we talk about, which is where your home is no longer showing, which means you can breathe a little bit easier, where you don't have to keep it up in a beautiful 100% pristine condition. You can kind of just, take a step back and say, okay, now we have to make plans on making that move, talking about movers, and that's when we are going to sit down together again and create another game plan. So as you can see, it is a lot. And that is why I always suggest that preparation, being proactive, is extremely important. And just working through and figuring out the game plan and just taking it one day and then 1 week at a time. So here's what my suggestions are in terms of where to go next. And if you have more questions, I would love to chat with you and see what your plans are. We can do it over the phone, we can do it over Zoom or in person if you would like me to take a look at your home. My contact information is, all of the information is listed on this slide. If you are looking for market analysis or some other free resources, please head over to our home seller resource library. Of course, this workshop, because it's being recorded, is going to be on our YouTube channel called At Home with Olga. That's where this workshop is going to live, as well as a few others that you can review and watch again from the comfort of your home. And as you know, we have different workshops that we do on Zoom as well as in person almost every week. So take a look at our schedule. The link is called Live with Olga, and we have lots of other updates. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I know that it is a lot, and this is why I always suggest to you that making a move is one of life's top 10 stressors. So don't think that you have to do it alone. It does take a village, and this is what we do with passion for a living every day in our practice. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we will see you again at another workshop or maybe on one-on-one very soon. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye, everybody.